So I spent a lot of time working on my Revolution 60 video that came out today, yesterday, whatever. And if you haven't heard, the game is pretty bad. Go watch that after this. Because I was stuck in a cave for a few hours, I didn't really have time to watch the Nintendo Switch presentation until about 7:30 this morning. Or yesterday, depending on when this video comes out. But I'm going to ride that wave and do what everyone else is doing and tell you what I think about the console, the game lineup, and the presentation as a whole. First of all, the system releases in less than 3 months, like on March 3rd, 2017, pretty much everywhere for $300 or something close to that. And I really hope you got around to pre-ordering one, because if you didn't, you're not getting one on March 3rd. Anyone who's actually cared about the Nintendo Switch has already followed most of the news about it, and that includes the specifics, like the fact that it's just a tablet powered by an NVIDIA Tegra system on a chip, that it connects to a dock to play games while connected to your TV, but the dock doesn't actually add any power, and that there are a bunch of different ways to play with the system while out on the go. What Nintendo decided to focus on instead were how the system feels and controls, and how your quality of life will be affected based on the battery life. Which, let's be real, is pretty freaking short. About 2.5 to 6 hours depending on the game. When you hear a statement like that, and then look at Zelda and Skyrim, you think 2.5 hours. But that may be okay for you considering the system charges using a USB 3.0 Type-C charging jack. Nintendo says the Switch inherits the DNA from all their major console releases, but in a positive move, it may not be inheriting the atrocious online capabilities of the Wii U and the 3DS. Although they didn't go into specifics, they did let out that there is initially going to be an online service that will be free, but will eventually be switched to something paid come fall. Again, no word on specifics, so no price, but my guess is it'll range between $40 and $60 a year, just like Xbox Live and PSN. Because Nintendo's always trying to get new ways to get players into gaming, a lot of time during the presentation was spent talking about the Joy-Con. I'm gonna be honest, this is something I had reservations about based on the small size of the individual pieces and how it looks when placed in the grip. And on that front, my opinion really hasn't changed. There are quite a few things that are good about them, so let's go over the specifics. The pieces of the Joy-Con actually make 2 controllers, so you can enjoy multiplayer games without having to spend the $80 it's gonna cost to get an extra 2. Each Joy-Con has NFC read and write capabilities for Amiibo, so that should make the inevitable Smash sequel a more personal experience during casual play. There's a button for screen capture that will also eventually allow for video capture in a manner similar to the other consoles, so I guess Nintendo felt that method of sharing data was worth it. I get the feeling that video sharing will be available in the fall, once the paid service is introduced. As with most controllers on the market now, it includes an accelerometer for motion controls that's an evolution of the Wii Motion Plus. There's also new rumble tech that allows for very effective determination of different feelings in your hand. Something that I wasn't expecting was that each Joy-Con contains an IR blaster that is sensitive enough to determine the shapes of your hand and the distance from the controller to an object. I also get the feeling that it'll continue the recent tradition of allowing people to control the TV. Lastly, from what I could gather, there are wrist straps included that also make the shoulder buttons bigger, since the default form of the buttons act as locks or whatever for the system. Interestingly, they showed nothing on the Pro Controller, though they did mention it in passing. It's not available for pre-order, so I get the fact that it's not finalized, but why? I get that there aren't any games that really require all the buttons at launch, but even the Wii and Wii U had classic controllers at launch sold separately. In my opinion, it's a negative, mostly because I was looking forward to the Pro Controller because I don't like the look of the actual Joy-Con grip. When pieced together, its large square body reminds me a lot of the Saturn analog stick, and I hated that controller. So yeah, that's everything that they said specifically about the Nintendo Switch as a console, but of course, we know a console is only as good as its games, and let's talk about that. I'm gonna do this rapid fire because this video is getting a lot longer than I wanted it to be. So let's go. In my opinion, 1-2 Switch is less a game and more a tech demo for the Joy-Con controller, as evidenced by the fact that it's also being developed by the engineer for the console. That's fine. Nintendo Land was that way also. I'm just wondering why it's not a pack-in game. Is it just not cost effective for them to put in software that is barely a game with the console now, so that there's actually, something to play? Other than that, I'm playing it day one, whatever. I'm torn about ARMS though. I like the design of the 2 poster characters, and I think it's interesting that the girl's socking the dude in the cover, but imagine the blowback from everyone if the cover was Springman donkey punching Ribbon Girl. Just think about that. With the long distance spring punching being the main focus, I'm actually concerned there's no close range game. No combos or anything like that, just a sort of physics based long range punch fest with some special moves. Like I said, I'm torn. Splatoon, Nintendo's last original IP, looked interesting enough and showed enough gameplay during its announcement that people were hyped. With the possibility of glove parrying and other advanced techniques, I could get hyped in the same way here. Speaking of Splatoon, there's a sequel and there's more of everything, and I dig it. Like ARMS, it's not a launch title, so you can't play it day one, and that's a shame. Redout was a no-show, aside from like 3 seconds in the trailer at the end. It's not first party, so I guess Nintendo didn't feel all the old Japanese men in the audience wanted to see it. It could also be because it looks like FZero, and they tried to avoid showing, talking about, or developing anything related to the property unless they're showing homages in Mario Kart. Something about not wanting to release a new game unless it's innovative. But then Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is just Mario Kart 8 with all the DLCs and actual tracks for battle mode now. Also Splatoon characters, which is sweet. So are those additions going to be DLC for Wii U folks who won't be able to get a hold of the Switch since pre-orders are almost completely filled? Oh wait. Also, did anyone see any footage of 4-player karting? I kinda wonder, do the number of Joy-Cons force a player limitation, or is it the processor being a downclocked Tegra X series processor? Todd Howard showed up on screen to stop gaslighting everyone and actually admit that Skyrim is on the system. Woo, Skyrim, on the go, because that game is totally conducive to handheld play for 2 hours before the battery dies. Next. Oh yes, Xenoblade 2, looking great so far. Monolith Soft, good studio, and they make nice big games with lots to do. That reminds me, I need to go play Xenoblade X. I'm also looking forward to the SMT project from Atlus, and whatever Suda51 and Toshihiro Nogashi are planning. Super Monkey Ball incoming probably. I'd definitely play that. On the other hand, I have nothing to say about Zelda. I admit to not being the biggest Zelda fan, but there looks to be enough different to get me to buy it. I bought it. Not the Master Edition though. You haven't won me over yet, Zelda. There are a bunch of other games that were shown in the trailer, but no FZero and no Metroid, and that made me a bit sad. The other thing that's making me sad is the number of games that are actually going to be released on launch day. Either Nintendo is considering the launch window to be the entirety of spring, or they're performing the biggest piss take in the games industry. I had this intention of getting every day one release, and I think I did. Yeah, I'm not getting Skylanders Imaginators. It's not new, so I'm not diving in. Overall, I think I enjoyed the presentation as much as I thought I would. It was shown in Japan, so the air about the place was really businesslike, kinda like a shareholders meeting. Any attempts to lighten the mood looked really weird or simply fell flat with the audience, but I think I liked those the most. God, Suda51 probably felt really embarrassed though.
Yeah! 滑りました。
Early March seems like a weird time to release a games console, but let's remember that Japanese students don't head back to school until April, so the middle of a vacation for their easiest audience to impress seems like a perfect time. In any case, expect gameplay and impressions of anything available on launch day when the Nintendo Switch comes out, and feel free to shoot me some questions and comments about the thing. I'm also looking forward to all the videos of other people sharing their initial impressions on day one, so let's hope Nintendo can switch their fortunes this year and... That was terrible. How about I'll see you in the next one.